Proxies is one of my school books by Brian Blanchfield, Essays Near Knowing, A Reckoning. It is a collection of 24 essays written on a number of different subjects. They were all written within this constraint of the author could not consult any outside source, and subtitled, the title of each chapter is what basically became a mantra, is permitting shame, error, and guilt, myself, the single source. So this guy explored various topics using the knowledge that he had with him at the time, which wasn't always accurate, so he knew he was probably making mistakes. And by the way, there's a whole section at the end of the book called Correction. And this final part of the book gets longer with each printing. This is the second printing, and we met the author in school. He came to school and did a reading, and I think he said that there will be 4 new corrections added to this final part of the book in the third printing. And I'm making it sound like this is a book full of just complete wrong info, but it isn't. He's using this not only as a way to explore his own knowledge, but really as a way to explore his life and just life in general. And it is really fascinating and just really awesome to see that. So just a little bit of info about the guy. His parents divorced when he was very young. He didn't have much to do with his biological father. Then his stepfather came into the picture, adopted him, and okay, I've got to find that. I didn't find any of the quotes ahead of time to note down and say, this is one I must read. There are, however, lots of highlighting in the book because, I mean, this is a school book. Dang, I wish I'd asked him on his usage of the word pagan, because I remember reading this, and I was, in reading this as a pagan, I was reading this and I was like, obtain for me seems not only woefully humble as a request, but also similar to the content of a polytheistic or pagan prayer. And I would love to ask him, expand please on what you think a pagan prayer would be like. I mean, I'm not saying that he's necessarily wrong. This is something I would have to consider before, and this is the thing, there's so much in this that I'm getting sidetracked now, but there's so much in it that I've met the author, I've gone to the reading, I've listened to him talk. He has a friggin' amazing voice, by the way. I mean, I was just eyes closed, listening. I hope no one thought I was asleep. I was really just luxuriating in his voice. He has one of those voices, oh my god. But anyways, and we've studied this book in class even, and I'm still I don't fully get it. It's one of those books that you could just read multiple times and still find something new. So that's awesome. Okay, I'm not going to try to find that particular quote, but basically Brian Blanchfield's stepfather adopted him. As a kid, he kind of felt like that was a way to make the stepdad part of the family. So they were extremely religious Baptists growing up. Very, you must be straight, which was a little bit interesting because this guy is actually gay. And so that gets discussed in here, including discussions with his mother, as you will not call this a lifestyle. Which I could also go on and on about that, but that's a topic for another day, and he doesn't actually expound on that. Aside from this one chapter called On Frottage, he doesn't really sit down and discuss his sexual orientation, the fact that he's gay. It just kind of comes up depending on the topic, and in that he's not really, and even in the chapter called On Frottage, it's not so much that he's saying, okay, I'm going to talk about I'm gay. It's more like he's talking about sexuality, and I mean, he's gay. That's inevitably going to be a huge part of the chapter, including, that was interesting for me to see, apparently I just get really emotional when I read about people in the queer community who lived through the AIDS epidemic. And I mean, I'm not trying to say it's not a huge problem now. I mean, AIDS is still a thing, but it's not like it was when it first was like, oh great, we have this problem. So yeah, he talks about that. That got me a little emotional. So yeah, he explores his family life and how his stepfather was emotionally abusive towards his mother, which was also a bit painful to read. And then he also talks about being a poet, a professor, academia in general. He talks about all kinds of different subjects. Just a few of the chapters on owls, on sardines, on foot washing. That's a more religious one, talking about when he grew up Baptist and the history of foot washing. Actually, that's a good one to go find something to quote from. So yeah, to show the range that these different chapters can have, and this one is like 1, 2, 3, 4, about 4 pages, actually barely even that. Here are a couple snippets from this one chapter. To wash one's own feet independent of the rest of the body, and even to wash the feet of others, was not an unusual act in the time and place Jesus Christ lived, in an economy of hospitality Greek in origin. Now from there, he goes on to eventually I say this is like only a few pages long, and he eventually goes on to talk about how his stepfather has a chronic wound on the sole of his right foot, a condition not uncommon to advanced type 2 diabetics like himself. He talks about how this has to be washed daily, and that it's his mom who washes it. After 25 years of marriage, she knows this part of his body best. He hasn't ever really seen it. Often, daring, feeling nothing, he watches television. So basically, as an example of how he will explore various aspects of one particular topic. He starts off with foot washing, when he was growing up as Baptist, moves on to the historical thingy of it, and then makes it even more personal now to, oh, for this very practical reason, my mom washes my stepfather's foot. And as a result, this is the part of his body that she knows best. So yeah, it's a really good book. If you're looking for some nonfiction, this is one you might want. If you're looking for queer literature, you might want to check this out. It is really awesome. Nice. I like it. It's one of those school books that I'm going to be revisiting again at some point, I am sure. Oh, and I got, and he signed it. He signed it! Ah! Although he dated it wrong, so he was like, oops, I guess my first mistake was on the title page. Anyways, I'm not complaining about that. Also took notes from when he visited my professor's class. I will stick them in here somewhere. And yeah, it's a really good book. I recommend it. If I already said that, tired. Coffee. So it's a really good book. I recommend it if you're interested in nonfiction. If you're interested in queer lit, you might want to read it. If you're curious about the life of someone who's in academia, you might want to read it. I have a classmate who said, and I burst out laughing when she said it because it was so true, this reads like he's a poet who's trying to not write poetry, which, yeah, I mean, he has 2 other books that are poetry, so he's a poet. So anyway, so yeah, so if you enjoyed this, thumbs up. If you want to hear more, subscribe. If any books came to mind that you think I might like, then leave them in the comments. I would love to add more books to my ever-growing list of books that I will not be able to get through before I die, but which I will enjoy trying to get through. Well, that was cheerful. And marshmallows. I'm just being ridiculous.